voices have become so important. And I'm not just talking about seeing women on stage speaking, answering questions to be Miss South Africa. I'm talking about women behind a vision, women behind decisions. The history of Miss South Africa, it has never been led by an all-female team. Like, how crazy is that? Like, it's exciting. It's so great to say I'm the first woman executive producer and show producer of Miss South Africa, and I'm Black and I'm young, but also why only now? So for me, one of the biggest intentions I went into this project with was, how can we have more of the female voice heard? And not just in terms of pageant history, in terms of what I would like to see Miss South Africa become for us as women. I would like to see a woman that I can see myself reflected in. I would like to see a woman who represents all of us and not just the ideal of what a woman should be, which is put together. Now, you might think to yourself, yeah, but that's so obvious. But you have no idea how many fine details and decisions that we made that speak to just that one piece of messaging, which is, hey, we have a female creative director. The Miss SA team is female-led. So every decision that we have made up until a certain point has to be directed to this vision of who is this woman that we want representing all of us. And this woman is a fearless, badass woman, not because, oh, she doesn't have fear. Yes, she's scared, but she's going to do it anyways. And yes, she's vulnerable, but she's showing up anyways, and she's showing her vulnerability. She's not always going to have makeup. We're going to challenge her. We are going to also put her in a position where sometimes she doesn't know, and she's okay to say, I don't know. So if I even start at the very basics of that phone call that said, hey, can we talk about you doing Miss South Africa? And I had to start building this creative. And one of the things I thought about was just this idea of geometric shapes and lines, because I thought they're so modern. So I went and read a lot about lines and straight lines and curved lines and the messaging around them, which ones represent softness, which ones represent hardness. When horizontal lines are used in design, vertical lines are used in design. I started thinking about geometric shapes, triangles, things like if you visually show a triangle upside down, it represents imbalance. If you show a triangle upright, it represents balance. So all of those things, I did a whole lot of reading. And I thought to myself, this is such a sleek, edgy, modern way to go. And yes, part of the research was watching tons of pageants from different countries over different years and to say, what is it that we can do differently, but also make it uniquely South African? So when we got to this whole vision of, okay, it's about the fearless, badass woman, it started to take shape into bleeding into other parts of the project. So one of our ideas was, other than these hard lines, I mean, for some reason in my head, I just saw the set. I saw it. I saw the stage. I knew I wanted long ramps. And I knew that if you looked at it from the top, it's going to look like a crown. I wonder if you noticed that. But also, it's got to have lines that just give variety. And sometimes you might think, oh, it's just a drawing. But when you are creating a stage design or briefing a stage designer, this is what I have in mind. You're thinking so many things like, which places can my presenters come out and present? Which way can my top 10 walk? Where can my performers perform? Which brings me to the part of a big part of the creative and the objective of the show was, how do we get South Africans reinvested in Miss South Africa? I am one of those people who I fell off. I stopped watching. It didn't seem relevant or appealing to me. Now I'm like, oh, I'm the target market and I need to get myself interested in this. How am I going to do that? So other than a great concept, a great creative of what our theme is and how we're going to execute it, visually, what are we going to use, chatting to the team, I also was like, we need to bump up the entertainment value. Having watched the previous shows, I was like, we need to do more. And not just do more of booking artists who have a current hit single, be very intentional about everything that we're doing within the show. So back to the part about female voices. When I thought about the opening, I was like, we need a killer opening. We need something that's going to say, this is a new Miss South Africa. And immediately in my head, I can't even tell you how, I just thought to myself, we need rappers, because I think about who are badass women. The female rappers in this country are badass. There are so few of them. You can name all of them on less than 10 of your fingers. As in the ones that are out there, that have their music out there, they're performing, they're getting booked. There's so few, and they are saturated by a male-dominated industry. And that's a whole other conversation. But I was like, let's have the female rappers. And I wrote my wish list down. And I thought to myself, but I want them to write lyrics specifically for the show. They've got to speak to this woman that we're talking about, this woman that we want to represent all of us as women. And that meant, calling them up, calling their management up. Boiti, I have known for many, many years. It was an easy conversation, even though not easy in the sense that I was challenging all of them to say, I know you usually just write music for yourself. I want to give you a brief. Nadia, I've known from the business. Rouge, I have worked with doing the remix as, one of the people that worked with her there when she was presenting. And then I was like, oh, but we need a hot, awesome vocalist to tie it all off. And Elaine was our first choice. Now, just so you know, just because you have great ideas doesn't mean you're going to get them, because you have budgets and you have schedules. But I was so determined we're going to figure this out. And the female voices part was now where we said, what is the song? I straight up said, the song cannot be any of their songs, because it must feel like a group effort. Why don't we take a well-known song that the crowd can get excited about, and the crowd can go, oh, I recognize this, and have the ladies write lyrics to it. And when we thought about it, we were like, but Mabr is a classic. I mean, come on. Weekend Special, come on. And then spoke to our musical director and the team to say, rework this. Got the ladies into a WhatsApp group after, I had individual meetings, a group meeting, and was just so fortunate that they were all just down to write. And then we kind of said, we'll send you each a brief of what you need to write about, so that you are writing about something specific in your verse. And Elaine as well eventually got to hear what the rappers did, so that she could write her verse. And it really became a collaborative effort, which I think maybe might be underestimated when you watch the show, how much went into creating that. Because it also meant going into the studio, recording the track so that we could rehearse it. Elaine recorded in her studio session. Rouge recorded in her studio session. We worked in studio with Boiti and Rouge and our musical director. It was an absolute labor of love, knowing that we put that much effort into the opening performance, but also trying to say, how do we keep the energy up so that our top 10 are revealed beautifully? And I think setting the tone for the night, that was the best decision to make. And we are so fortunate that our first choice, the first names I wrote down, we discussed with client, are the ones that showed up to the table, because I was real with them about what this vision is about. And that's a big one with our opening act, and a very important part of female voices being heard. Those lyrics were written by them. They killed it. They performed their own words. All we said is, Boiti, you need to rap about power. And these are ideas around power. Rouge, you need to rap about beauty. Nadia, you need to rap about sisterhood. So if you listen to that opening track again and hear some of the amazing bars they are dropping, that is what the new Miss South Africa is. That is what the new pageant is.